ICU nurses are Taylor Swift, meticulous, polished, and always in control. ER nurses, they're Kanye West, chaotic, unpredictable, and sometimes unhinged. Both think they're the real MVPs, and they're not afraid to let you know it. I've worked both ER and ICU, so trust me when I say this rivalry is very real. Today, we're breaking it all down, the good, the bad, and who's actually better. This feud isn't new. It's been around since hospitals had separate departments. ICU nurses think ER nurses are reckless adrenaline junkies that don't know the meaning of attention to detail. ER nurses think ICU nurses are control freaks who wouldn't last 10 minutes in their world of chaos. It's like pitting introverts versus extroverts. One plans the perfect night in, and the other plans the chaos to a karaoke night. And in case you're wondering, no, this rivalry, it's not about patient care. It's about pride. Let's start with ICU nurses. ICU nurses are the perfectionists of healthcare. They'll spend 20 minutes adjusting their pumps just to get a blood pressure up by 1 point. Every beep, every line, every lab value. It's their symphony. They're the ones who look at your chart and say, you forgot to document the exact second of that medication. ICU nurses thrive on control. They want everything clean, measured, and predictable. Their motto, why treat chaos when you can prevent it? And they're great at what they do. And they should be. Their patients are the sickest in the hospital, and they manage their patients with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker. But let's be real, they can be a little extra. To the ICU nurses, the ER nurses are wild cousins who show up late to the family party and leave a mess for everyone else to clean up. But now let's talk about those ER nurses. ER nurses are the firefighters of healthcare. They don't have time to fine-tune anything. They're running into chaos, grabbing what they can, and putting out fires left and right. The ER nurse motto, we don't need perfect, we need alive. While ICU nurses are adjusting one single pump, ER nurses are juggling 6 different patients. One's coding, one's puking, and one's demanding to see a doctor because they didn't get enough ice in their water. ER nurses live for the adrenaline. They're not here for clean charts or perfectly labeled lines. They're here to stabilize and move on. If healthcare was a movie, the ER nurses would be the stunt team getting right into the action, and the ICU nurses would be the directors and the editors making sure that final cut is perfect. But let's break this down a little bit further. ICU nurses, they walk into a pristine room with one patient. Everything is labeled, organized, and running smoothly. They stay with that patient for hours, making sure every detail is perfect. ER nurses, they walk into a war zone. Their rooms, they're not actually rooms. They're just hallways. Their patients range from, I need a doctor's note, to actively dying. ICU nurses spend 30 minutes documenting just one procedure. ER nurses spend 30 minutes documenting 10 patients and still get yelled at for not documenting enough. It's like comparing chess and dodgeball. One is slow, strategic, and calculated, and the other is fast, chaotic, and unpredictable. This rivalry, it's like a tech war. ICU nurses are like Apple, sleek, polished, obsessed with perfection. Everything they do feels meticulously designed, but it comes at a price. Their patience for anything outside their system is limited. ER nurses, they're like Android, versatile, adaptable, and built to handle chaos. Sure, it's not always pretty, but it's fast, functional, and gets the job done every single time. Both are wildly successful, but let's be honest, you're not asking Apple to make a rugged phone, and you're not asking Android to design your next high-end minimalist desk accessory. Each has its own lane, and each dominates its own world. But here's the truth, hospitals need both. The ICU saves you after the chaos. The ER saves you during the chaos. But here's the problem. While the ER and the ICU are bickering about who's better, there's a bigger problem that's working against both of them. The real enemy is not the ICU. The real enemy is not the ER. The real enemy is corporate greed. While the ICU nurses are fine-tuning their pumps, fine-tuning their vents, and ER nurses are dodging projectile vomit and projectile blood from who knows what hole in the body, administration is upstairs figuring out how to cut costs and still keep their bonuses. Administration loves the ER versus ICU rivalry because it keeps us distracted. While we're debating vent settings and triage protocols, they're drafting up another email talking about resilience and teamwork while showing a stock photo of nurses smiling. It's like arguing who's the better lifeguard, while corporate greed is just filling the pool up with sharks. So are ICU nurses better than ER nurses? The real answer? Doesn't matter. And who cares? Because the real fight isn't between the ICU and the ER. It's between all of us and the system that values profits over patients. ER nurses and ICU nurses, you're both great. But if we ever stop fighting each other and start fighting the system together, corporate greed won't stand a chance.